Well, hi there folks, how you doing? Kenneth Kerr here. It's the 3rd of January 2012 and I've made a few changes in the Chipmunk simulator and I wanted to show you some of those changes. Okay, by the way, remember I said that you had to plan for space? Now you'll see why. This actually is a real room, alright? It's not a dedicated simulator room. It doubles as my office as well. So my writing computer is over here for my books. And this computer over here is used for various tasks as well as flight sim. And library across there, filing cabinet and so on. So when I said you did need to do some planning and space was limited, now you understand that I really meant what I was saying. Anyway, changes in this Chipmunk simulator. The biggest change is that I am 54 years old and I was discovering that my backside really didn't like the seating that I had put in here originally. It just didn't have enough padding and it was downright uncomfortable. So I asked a place that breaks up cars if they would find me a seat out of an old van, and they did. So that's the bottom part of the seat out of the van. Now it meant that I had to do a little bit of changing inside the cockpit. It's not really showing up on camera. A few changes here and there in terms of where things were fitting. It looks a little bit less like a Chipmunk, but it sure is a lot more comfortable for sitting there and flying. And of course, let's face it, that's also the name of the game. So that's one of the changes. A second change was one that was forced upon me. Now, as you probably know, the de Havilland Chipmunk has one window frame that goes down the centre of the windscreen or windshield, depending on which side of the Atlantic you're listening to this upon. Well, when I put this new seat in, first time I tried to put it in complete with the whole frame out of the van, and guess what? It started to bend this perspex up here and crack. It cracked right the way down here. Now, as you can see, this thing is bolted and taped and all sorts of things in place. So I thought, oops, we have a problem. Well, you know what? Problems are really challenges and opportunities to change things in disguise. And so what I did was I said, okay, let's take the original piece of tape that was the window frame off here. We'll put one over here to strengthen that crack because there was no way I was about to replace this thing. And just put a bit of tape up there. Do the same thing on the other side. The dog is barking away in the background. And okay, maybe a little bit less Chipmunk-like, but it still works. Look at that, So that was another change that we made in there as well. Okay, now, people have been asking me a few questions about building this thing, and they say, well, how do you make that perspex bend? Well, you know what? Are you ready for this? Simplicity in action. It already bends, okay? You see what I mean? So all I did was build it in such a way that there were ridges, and you just put the thing over on itself, and you fit it in there like that, and there's your canopy. Very, very simple. It was the same with this one, except of course it's bolted in there, drilled in there, and that wasn't going to come out quite so easily. But for this thing, it's dead easy. Now, why is that kind of fun? Aha! Well, watch this. I decided there is always a difference between the British Chipmunks, which have a window that looks a bit like that, and the Canadian Chipmunks, which don't. I'm trying to do this one-handed, it's not so easy. So, a couple of days ago, I got another piece of the old bendy perspex, and bear with me, this may take more hands than I have available. And this one, when I put it in there now, here we go, pop it over, same principle, same concept, and just try and close it without it. I need 4 hands. Just gently slip that in place, and guess what? Now we have a very different looking simulator. Isn't that something? Oh, by the way, notice the cool headrest out of that same van. So look at that. Now you've got a completely different kind of a canopy and a completely different kind of a look for basically $16.99 and a little bit of duct tape and a whole lot of imagination. Not bad, eh? So there you go. Now, why is that kind of thing important? Well, of course, all this came about because of that crack in the screen. And now that I've got that a little bit more open and better visibility out the front, I realised that we were open to doing some other changes as well. So, now, let me show you something. If I move this back, folks wonder another question about the instruments and where the instruments come from and so on. If I come down into here, That looks quite realistic, doesn't it? Okay, those instruments, by the way, are within Flight Simulator. It's not an external program, people. I'm using one computer, and I'm using instruments that you would see in the panel CFG file in Flight Simulator. Now, are you watching, folks? I take out this piece along the top. And in the back there, you can see the perspex that or not the perspex, the plastic foam that I put there. Watching? Here we go. Simplicity itself. Take it out. Look, here it is. There's the back of it. And there is the monitor. Now, you know what? You don't have to spend a fortune to try and get creative in your Flight Simulator cockpit. Now, this simply is the 2D panel using windowed mode and moved across to a different screen, leaving the projector view for the outside. It's as simple as that. Now, I have splurged a little bit of money and bought the Reality XP 6-pack. The reason for that, those gauges are fantastic. Revolutionized the way that this thing performs in terms of the fluidity and the smoothness of those gauges, so I would highly recommend it. Now, why have I shown you this? Well, let me show you why. Supposing I decide now that I want to fly something different, so we'll come on up here and we'll go aircraft. Actually, I'm going to set up a different, let me see, just do a different situation. Here's one, set up for a microjet. Tell it to fly now. It'll take a couple of moments to kick in. Okay, while it's doing that, the reason that I wanted to show you this is because all of a sudden, guess what? You have a glass cockpit inside here. And again, this is just using the panel CFG file and making a different panel and putting it in there, and I don't even have any kind of board to put across there, except I'll probably put this back along the top because it makes it look just a wee bit better. There we are. So now you see my Chipmunk simulator, different window, glass instrumentation, and a different cockpit, and being a good Scotsman, I'm doing it very inexpensively. Alright, now, we'll just let the outside view kick into place here as well. But in the meantime, you can see that. Now, by the way, the instruments I'm using in this case are instruments from an add-on. The add-on that I bought was the Sports Cruiser, and I believe, if I remember rightly, that's from Just Flight in the UK, and that has a superb instrument package of the Dynon glass instruments, and I just love it. So I just popped it inside this bead over here. And now I've got full glass instrumentation. Take a look at the right screen there to change through to the various settings that I want as well. And we'll take it all the way through. Yeah, let's go one back to there. So there you go. That's how the simulator has advanced since you last saw it. It still can fly as my Chipmunk if I want it to, or with some very simple modifications. You've got this. And if I take the light off and take this light off as well, hang on a second, and now take a look at it, you know, and if I can just try and close this canopy of mine. You almost need to use two hands to just close this perspex here, but I'll just take it some other way. And one more thing I want to do is change that outside view, which I'll do from the keyboard. Hang on a second. There we are. And we come back to here. And you take a look at the view from the inside, and voila, we have a beautiful glass cockpit for flying this simulator. There we go. So, that's the latest modifications to the Chipmunk simulator. Yes, it is still a Chipmunk, but now it's also a whole lot more. Hope you've enjoyed it. You take care. This is Kenneth Kerr.